Mandy.
I'm not lost. I'm just off camera until it's my turn.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Mansfield Shire Council meeting on Tuesday, the 18th of August, 2020. Before we commence today's virtual council meeting, I wish to note that this meeting is being conducted online in accordance with the provisions of the COVID-19 Omnibus Emergency Measures Act 2020, which was passed on the 23rd of April this year by the Victorian Parliament. This new act introduced provisions into the new Local Government Act 2020 to allow for virtual council meetings such as this one to take place from the 1st of May until the 1st of November 2020. I also remind everyone that the local government decision making, unlike the state and federal government, does not afford the benefit of parliamentary privilege, and as hence no protection is offered to councillors and council officers for comments made during meetings which are subsequently challenged in a court of law and determined to be as slanderous. As with our previous online meetings, in order to be recorded as present at the meeting, each councillor must confirm that they can hear the proceedings, they can see the other councillors in attendance and be seen by other members, and they can be heard to speak. When we move to present and apologies, I will ask all councillors to confirm this. It is also a requirement that all virtual meetings of council are made accessible to the public by being streamed live via the council's website. We are also broadcasting through Mansfield Radio this evening. Please note that closed sections of council meetings to consider confidential items are not required to be live streamed nor recorded electronically. A quorum of a meeting of our council is that 3 councillors are present. If, for some reason, the quorum requirement is breached during the meeting by councillors dropping out of the meeting for some reason, we will adjourn the meeting and try to restore those connections. Technical problems. Finally, please note that should we encounter significant technical difficulties that do not allow today's meeting to continue at all, the meeting will be adjourned and those items on the agenda that have not been considered will be deferred for consideration by council at a later date. We continue to thank you for your patience and your support. Could I have each councillor, as I call you, to verbally let us see that you can hear the proceedings and we can see you. Councillor Olver. You're on mute, councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I can hear the proceedings and see all councillors and council officers.
Thank you. Councillor Sladden.
I can hear the proceedings and see all councillors and council officers.
Thank you. Councillor Volkring.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I can see, I can hear the proceedings and see all councillors and council officers. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Westendorf.
Confirming, Madam Mayor, that I can see all other attendees and hear them.
And also, as chair, I can hear and see. Councillors, please raise your hand to acknowledge that you can hear each other. Thank you. Madam CEO, do we have any apologies for today's meeting, please?
No apologies, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I will now recite the statement of commitment, and I will ask each councillor to confirm their commitment when I have finished. As councillors of Mansfield Shire, we are committed to ensuring our behaviour meets the standards set by the Mansfield Shire Councillor Code of Conduct and Councillor Conduct Charter. We will, at all times, faithfully represent and uphold the trust placed in us by the community. Councillor Olver. You're on mute, councillor.
I confirm the statement of commitment.
Thank you. Councillor Sladden.
I confirm my commitment.
Thank you. Councillor Volkering.
Madam Mayor, I confirm my commitment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Westendorf.
I confirm my commitment, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Councillor Peter Olver, would you please recite the acknowledgement of country?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Our meeting is being held on the lands of the Taungurung people, and we wish to acknowledge them as the traditional owners. I'd also like to pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and Aboriginal elders of other communities who may be here today.
Thank you, Councillor. Item number 6 is the disclosure of conflicts of interest. Could I ask each councillor in turn to indicate whether they have any conflicts of interest on any items of the agenda this evening? Councillor Olver.
To my best knowledge, I have no conflict of interest on any of the agenda items tonight. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Sladden.
I do not have any conflicts on any of the items in today's agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Volkering.
Madam Mayor, I have no conflict of interest on tonight's agenda.
Thank you. Councillor Westendorf.
Madam Mayor, I have no conflict of interest with any items on the agenda tonight.
Thank you. I have an indirect interest in item 13.4.1. We'll move on to the confirmation of minutes. Could I please have a motion to confirm 2 sets of minutes on the 21st of July 2020 and the 4th of August 2020? Could someone please move that motion? Councillor Westendorf. Councillor Sladden. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. We move to item number 8, which is representations. Madam CEO, do we have any representations for the meeting this evening, please?
So thank you, Madam Mayor. We have 2 requests to speak to item 13.4.1 tonight. A request from Sir Andrew Grimwade and a request from Mr. Jeffrey Doyle.
Thank you very much. Move on to item number 9, notices of motion. Madam CEO.
There are no notices of motion tonight, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Move on to the Mayor's report, which is in the agenda for you, councillors. And I would just like to add on to that I just realised last week that it is actually 100 years this month since the first woman was elected to local government in Australia. It's a great time to reflect such a major milestone for gender equality. Mary Rogers was elected to the Richmond City Council in August 1920. Today, 37.5% of Victorian women are councillors, with 47.4 women mayors, which is the highest number in history. The Victorian government is working towards 50-50 by 2025. Could I please have a motion on the recommendation on page 6, please? Councillor Olver, seconder. Councillor Sladden, all in favour? Thank you. I'll move on to item number 11, which is reports from council-appointed representative committees. Could I call on Councillor Paul Sladden to just mention the last meeting or the progress of the Business and Community Recovery Advisory Committee, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we had a very productive meeting. As highlighted in your report, we had a new member, a new community member, Leanne Backwell. So we welcome her to the committee. And we received a report from those assisting us in terms of a plan for the way forward, and that is now being considered by the committee, and decisions will commence at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sladden. The Mansfield Shire Audit and Risk Advisory Committee, Councillor Harry Westendorf, would you like to just update on that about the interviews this week, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just for the benefit of everybody, we are interviewing the finance manager, The head of the Audit and Risk Committee and myself will be interviewing 3 candidates on Thursday for the vacancies in the Audit and Risk Committee that result from the recent end of term. Looking at those interviewees on paper, I think we have some good candidates. So hopefully we'll be coming back to you soon with some positive news on that.
Thank you, Councillor Westendorf. I'd just like to mention the meeting of the Environment Advisory Committee quite recently, which was a discussion around the project plan for the Climate Action Plan. So that's moving forward. Councillor Olver, would you like to speak to the North East Local Government Waste Forum, please?
North East Waste Forum meeting is actually this Thursday. It hasn't been one for some time, which will be on Zoom. And so yeah, hopefully in the September meeting, I'll be able to report back.
Thank you. Councillors, any other councillor wish to speak to any of the committees that they are representative on? Thank you. Could I have a motion, please, on page 7? And when you move the motion, do you mind reading it out, please? Councillor Volkering, do you mind reading the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Recommendation is that Council note the verbal reports provided by councillors in relation to their representation on external committees.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder for that motion, please? Councillor Westendorf, all in favour? Thank you. We move on to number 12, item 12, which is public question time, which we've brought forward to the meeting a bit earlier in the meeting rather than right at the end. And we welcome questions that must be online, I suppose, or email through before Monday, midday Monday, prior to the council meeting. We have one public question that has come in from David Smithwick, and I'll read the question and then I'll read council's response. What is council doing to ensure certain ongoing tenure for the men's shed in Errol Street, given that grant monies allocated cannot be spent, nor can other grants be applied for? Council has a lease agreement with Mace for the land on which the men's shed operates. The men's shed has operated since its inception under the auspice of Mace. It is council's understanding that this auspice arrangement, articulated in an auspice agreement and an MOU signed in February 2003 between Mace and the men's shed, was established to enable the community shed program to happen, as the men's shed was not an incorporated association at the time. Council also understands that the relationship between Mace and the men's shed has deteriorated and that the men's shed seeks to separate from Mace. However, there continues to be a disagreement on the ownership of the assets and on the spirit and intent of the original agreements. Council has been working with both parties without success. Council's advice to the men's shed is to finalise a lease agreement with Mace and seek tenure to enable the receipt of grant funding and to continue to provide excellent community programs. Council has also written to Mace expressing its disappointment that this matter has not been resolved. Council has no intention to intervene any further. The lease for the land remains valid and continues to exist with Mace. We'll move on to item number 13, which is Officers' Report. 13.1, the departmental reports. Madam CEO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The departmental reports are presented for Council's consideration. There's lots of good news in there and activities over the last month. I present it for Council's consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillors, there is a recommendation there. Would anyone like to speak to any item or ask any questions about that? Councillor Sladden.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not specifically related to the content of the reports, but there is a very informative departmental report there from the Community Services Department. And I would just like to acknowledge Ms. Melanie Houghton, who has left council and left the Community Services Department to go and work with Bushfire Recovery Victoria. And I would just like to, on behalf of all the councillors, thank Ms Houghton for her contribution to Mansfield Shire in that role. She certainly, not only in that role, but in other areas within council, played a fantastic role, and wish her all the best. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I support your words there also. Councillors, any other comments? Councillor Olver.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yes, in the reports, I'd like to highlight the report that a defibrillator has been installed. I'd actually noticed that, which is fantastic, on the steps, external steps of the Shire building leading up to the council chambers. And thanks for that initiative. There's actually a friend of mine involved in another town recently where they saved the life of a chap because there was a defibrillator available. So great initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, could I have someone move a motion there? Councillor Volkering, seconder. Councillor Olver, all in favour? Thank you. We'll move on to item 13.2.1, the Mansfield Township Approaches Planning Controls and Guidelines Study. Report to commence planning scheme amendment and seek authorisation from the Minister of Planning. With our General Manager of Infrastructure and Planning, Ms Alexander, is going to be there for our report. Councillors, if there aren't any questions, we have a recommendation on page 21 that if someone would like to move a motion. And so moving the motion, Councillor Sladden, would you like to read it out, please?
Not just yet, Madam Mayor. I have a question for our General Manager, if that's okay.
That's perfect, all right.
General Manager, sorry, I just forgot your name for a moment there. Terribly sorry. In terms of the timing of this amendment or proposed amendment, I'm just unclear in terms of why the urgency to do it now, given that Council is reviewing its planning strategy, which will result in, well, may result in further amendments. And just from a cost point of view, would it not be wiser to do them all at once instead of a more piecemeal approach?
Thank you. Ms Alexander?
Thanks, Councillor. That is an excellent question. The reason for why now is, as I understand, there's been quite a bit of work undertaken to get to this point. And without the amendment in place, Council won't have controls in place over, or on, controls in place over those approaches. In terms of the background to it, I think that's obviously been a matter of concern to Council. There's been quite a bit of work put in at this point. It's a notification to the Minister, and then it'll go out on public exhibition once the approval comes back from the department. So I guess I'm hoping that answers your question, but the broader strategy, I think, can continue on. But I think this is something that obviously has been identified as being of concern to Council in the past. So that's why it's been progressed in advance of the broader strategy.
Thank you. Councillor Sladden?
Thank you, Miss Alexander. Second question is, has any preliminary discussions with the relevant department regarding the likelihood of the Minister looking at this amendment in its current form?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I understand that, yes, there has been discussions and the response from the department has been quite favourable.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. So in doing so, I'm happy to move the recommendation that Council 1 confirm resolution 4 of item 10.4.1 of the ordinary meeting of Council held on 26th of June 2018, stating, use the Mansfield Township Approaches Planning Controls and Guidelines Study, June 2018, to inform the preparation of an amendment to review Schedule 1 to the Design and Development Overlay, Alpine Approaches and Township Gateways. 2, endorse the draft Mansfield Planning Scheme Ordinance associated with the Mansfield Township Approaches as the basis to prepare an application for authorisation from the Minister of Planning. 3, write to the Minister of Planning requesting authorisation to amend the Mansfield Planning Scheme under Section 8A 2 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987. 4, upon receipt of authorisation, make any changes necessary to comply with conditions of authorisation. And 5, upon satisfaction of any conditions of authorisation, exhibit the proposed amendment pursuant to Section 19 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987.
Thank you, Councillor Sladden. Do I have a seconder of the motion? Councillor Volkring. Anyone against? Those in favour? Thank you. Move on to item 13.2.2, the amendment to the Heighton Manor Development Plan. And we have the General Manager again supporting us through this. And very remiss of me, I welcome the General Manager to her new position and also to your first council meeting. So that's remiss of me. So sorry about that. Any questions, councillors, in relation to the recommendation on page 27? Do I have someone move a motion? Councillor Olver.
I better put off mute, Madam Mayor. Yes, look, I have a motion, and the proposed motion is, I'll read it, that Council defer consideration of the amendment to Heighton Manor Development Plan. First of all, to allow advertising the proposed amendment to the wider community for Council to consider their feedback. And secondly, to provide Council with further information that presents an overview of the reasons why the design guidelines need to be removed and any potential impact their removal may have.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Volkring. Anyone against the motion? All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Move on to item 13.2.3, the Mansfield Shire Council Waste Management Strategy. And we have a recommendation on page 32. Do I have someone move that as a motion, please? Councillor Olver. Do we have a seconder? Thank you. Councillor Olver, would you like to read the motion as it stands, please?
Recommendation that Council adopt the Mansfield Shire Council Waste Management Strategy 2020-2025.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Westendorp. Those in favour? Thank you. That is carried. We move on to 13.3.1, Council Managed Events. Madam CEO, if you lead us on that. And we have a recommendation on page 37. Do I have anyone move that as a motion, please? Councillor Olver. Do I have a seconder? Anyone? Sorry, you're a seconder, Councillor Slanton? No. We have no seconder. I have an alternative motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I do. My recommendation is that Council, 1, due to the current coronavirus pandemic and the restrictions on the number of people permitted to gather and the likely prolonged nature of this environment, cancel the Mansfield High Country Festival for spring 2020. And 2, continue to plan to hold a modified Lake Eildon Festival within the existing budget and any restrictions that may exist in November 2020. And 3, contact all key stakeholders about this decision to avoid unnecessary planning and expense.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Westendorp. Anyone against? Councillor Olver. Councillor Sladden, would you like to speak to the motion, please?
Certainly, thank you, Madam Mayor. As the alternate motion put forward does acknowledge the current coronavirus pandemic. However, to cancel an event as far as way at the end of November at this stage, I personally feel is premature. Now, I don't have a crystal ball. Nobody has a crystal ball. We don't know what's going to happen in November. We may still be in lockdown. However, my main reason for asking for this festival to continue is I am aware of the timelines that is required in planning such an event. Now, the event may not be in the form that we currently know it, but a modified event, I believe, will provide a focus, particularly for lakeside communities, in terms of a celebration. And I believe that the holding of the Lake Eildon Festival will also go a long way to furthering and keeping the momentum of the Lake Eildon activation plan, which Council has adopted and endorsed. The lake is currently at 53%. The forecast for rain is good over spring, and I just would like to give lakeside communities in particular an opportunity to garner some of the economic benefit that such an event may bring. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Westendorp, would you like to speak for the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do so with some misgiving, and that is, echoing Councillor Sladden's comments. We don't know where we're going to be in November, but I do think that the nature of the events held on the lakeside are probably going to be able to be held within some of the constraints of things like social distancing and some of the other restrictions that we operate under. So I'd like to leave my options open for that. I think somewhere between now and then, we're going to have to make a decision either to proceed or not. But I share Councillor Sladden's view that it's probably a little premature to say right now we don't do this in November when there could be options that allow it to happen.
Thank you. Councillor Olver, would you speak against the motion, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I'd really like to be able to see the festival happen, but unfortunately I have some concerns. Firstly, I think the risk of it not being able to take place and the risk of us wasting ratepayers' money, wasting council staff time in preparing for it, and the risk is that it doesn't go ahead. I think it's really important that we take seriously the spending of that money and that time. Secondly, I think there's been a lot of concern expressed in our community about attracting visitors, particularly from out of the Shire, into our area if there's any chance of their community's well-being and health being affected. As we know, people were not meant to be going to Mount Buller when it was open, but people were going from Melbourne, a restricted area, to Mount Buller. It was happening. And I had many community people contact me with concerns of that happening. I think is what's happening elsewhere. Well, if we just look in Mansfield, the Mansfield show has been cancelled in November. Further afield, we can look at Western Australia, who've got a fantastic record at the moment with the virus control, they've cancelled the Perth show. So if you look at the events in other states and in our states, most of them have been postponed from 2020. And the experts are saying the second wave of this pandemic will take a lot longer to clear than the first wave. So that's my concerns, and I don't want to see us preparing and wasting time and money.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak for or against? Councillor Volkering?
Thank you, Madam. Yeah, look, I think Councillor Sladen said that I think his amendment motion was something along the lines of within the restrictions applying at the time. And I didn't quite get it. I've got a bit of buzz on my volume here. I'm just wondering if we could get the recommendation again.
Councillor Sladen, could you read the motion, please?
Certainly. Okay, that council, 1, due to the current coronavirus pandemic, restrictions on the number of people permitted to gather and the likely prolonged nature of this environment, cancel the Mansfield High Country Festival for spring 2020. 2, council continues to plan to hold a modified Lake Eildon Festival within the existing budget and any restrictions that may exist in November 2020. And 3, contact all key stakeholders about this decision to avoid unnecessary planning and expense.
Thank you very much. Councillor Volkering, did you want to speak to anything?
No, that's, thank you, Madam Mayor. That's clarified it for me. I just wasn't quite sure about point 2, 3 and 4. And I think I understand the motion now that point 2 becomes actually point 3. So that's fine.
Thank you very much. And sorry, Councillor Westendorf.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I'm just wondering about the logistics of this kind of motion. Thinking through the time frames, we will need to make a decision at some point. We have one more council meeting to go before we go into caretaker mode. And once we're in caretaker mode, we won't be in a position to make a decision one way or the other. Can I suggest that we defer the decision until the September meeting and then decide whether in the remaining 2 months it's worth persevering with this? And I'm wondering whether Councillor Sladen would be prepared to move that amendment.
Thank you for your comments with that. I think we're talking about a really short time frame in that, leaving it till the end of September to do any work either way. I'll ask the CEO to speak on this, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was seen as really important to get this item up before in front of council now, given the planning that would need to commence immediately. In terms of council making a decision in caretaker period, now I might refer to our governance coordinator, but I don't see this as qualifying as a decision council couldn't make. So what I'm saying is I think the High Country Festival, which is a bigger festival, there needs to be a decision on that immediately because of the planning involved in that. And certainly with the Lake Eildon one, a much smaller festival, that perhaps could wait. I haven't got the events coordinator with me tonight, but that perhaps could wait another meeting. But I certainly wouldn't advise you to wait with the High Country Festival because the planning does need to start immediately.
I'll go back to Councillor Sladen because you put the motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just would like to address some of Councillor Olver's concerns.
Could we just have an answer to that first, because I'll be coming back to you for your right of reply in a minute.
Oh, thank you. I thought you'd forgotten about that.
No, don't forget.
No, I want to proceed as per the alternate motion. Thank you.
Thank you. So anyone else? I would like to actually just add to Councillor Olver's statements. I think it's really important for council to continue our really strong leadership in this, through following the messages from the state government. But also I am concerned about the resources of our council staff who are already extremely stretched. So I will go to you, Councillor Sladen, for your right of reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for the opportunity. Firstly, council has an existing events coordinator. So that person, given there's no events happening at the moment, that person, I know she's heavily involved in the Business and Community Recovery Advisory Recovery Committee, but that is her role. So we've got somebody there. We've got a person on the ground who has done this festival many, many times, and we've already got the budget. It's already in the budget. So we're not wasting money. We're not spending money. We'll only spend money when and if such an event occurs. But we need to plan for it. And so we have the staff to do it, and we have the necessary budget. Because my concern is that we cancel this and those funds get redirected elsewhere or end up back in general revenue. And I'm concerned that, you know, we may not see them again. Look, I clearly acknowledge the concerns around coronavirus, etc. But as Councillor Westendorp said, you know, we've got a very creative events person, and there are ways that some modified form of the event could possibly proceed, which is why we need to make a decision now so that that planning can be undertaken. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sladden. We have all seen the motion. Could I have those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried.
Madam Mayor,
Sorry.
could I have my opposition recorded, please?
We will have to have another vote for that. Could we have
Division.
a division, please? And we'll record the vote. Those in favour? Councillor Westendorp, Councillor Sladden, Councillor Volkering. Those against? Councillor Attlee and Councillor Olver. The motion is carried. Thank you, everyone. We move to item 13.4.1, and I will leave the meeting given the conflict of interest, and I call on the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Peter Olver, to take the chair for this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think we have two presentations, Sir Andrew Grimwade and Mr. Jeff Doyles.
Just letting them in now.
Beauty, thank you. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you.
Welcome, Sir Andrew.
Hello,
Welcome, Sir Andrew.
can you hear me?
We can hear you. Councillor Olver here.
Could I thank you, Councillor, and your other councillors for the opportunity to talk to you about the Beelite matter?
Yes.
At the outset, can I say I understand the council's desire to keep costs down, and we're grateful for the $400 discount on the community centre, but it is in the context of rates that residents pay now in the region of $80,000 a year. And so I'm speaking for 70 residents who feel like, unlike other ratepayers who pay their rates, they don't get their streets swept. From their point of view, they feel it's the principle. They think it's unfair and inequitable. And from their point of view, they don't think that ownership of the roads is the issue. It's not much money, but from their point of view, they feel that sweeping of the streets should meet the pub test. And so we urge the councillors to vote for option 1 because, in our view, the elderly do matter.
Thank you, Sir Andrew. Mr. Jeff Doyle.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to reiterate what Andrew has said and just point out a few other little interesting facts about our village at Beelite. I'm on the board there, I'm not a resident there, but the residents are independent living environment. This is not aged care in the strict sense of the word. These are very well run and very vibrant people in these homes that we have there. As Andrew said, we have approximately 70 odd residents at the moment in 50 odd homes. Those 50 odd homes in the next year to year and a half will be in excess of 60 homes, thereby increasing the rates that we pay to the council by approximately $20,000 on today's terms of rates. So our rating situation at the moment is $80,000 or thereabouts, and within the next year or so it'll be about $100,000. So we think it's very reasonable to ask you for a very small involvement. The street sweeper, we understand, would take approximately half an hour to sweep the streets in our village. So it won't be the whole $60 an hour that they charge you at this stage. So we'd certainly appreciate you rejecting the recommendation that you have before you and voting on option 1 on our behalf. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jeff. Have any councillors got questions of Jeff or Sir Andrew? Here, Councillor Sladen.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Andrew or Jeff, could either of you acknowledge that currently council provides a discount on rates for the block, the community hall at Beerlight?
Would you like me to answer, Andrew?
Yes.
Yes, that is correct, Paul. We get a 400 or thereabouts discount on a rate of approximately $4,000 on the community centre. So that's included, that $4,000 is included in the total value of rates independently charged to each unit, which totals approximately $80,000.
Right. Would you be prepared to compromise there?
I certainly would love to hear you say, yes, you'd love to give us what we require.
Well, I'm just, can we split the difference between 400 and 720?
Well, I'm not sure it'll be 720 in the end anyway, Paul.
Could I answer that question, Councillor? I think it's the principle that counts here.
Yes.
That is that they pay their full rates as if they were a normal ratepayer in Mansfield. And they feel that part of those rates should go towards this very minimal cost of sweeping the streets.
Yes, and my reply to that, Andrew, would be that there are many people who pay their rates who live on dirt roads and don't get their road swept because they don't have curb and channeling. Because it's only curb and channeled roads that get the street sweeper service.
Be that as it may, Councillor, it is still the principle that they're concerned about.
Thanks, Sir Andrew, and thanks, Councillor Sladen. Has anyone else got a question? Any other councillors? Well, I'd like to thank you, Jeff and Sir Andrew, for your time in presenting.
Thank you very much, Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor.
Are they going? Okay. Have we got anyone that would like to move a motion, please? Yes, Councillor Westendorp.
I'm going to move the motion as recommended, that the council offers to include a monthly street cleaning for the private roads in Beerlight Village as part of council's street sweeping program at full cost recovery.
Thanks, Councillor Westendorp. Have we got a seconder? I will second the motion. Have we got anyone to speak against? Councillor Volkering.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I'd like to speak against it, and I think it's somewhat unfortunate that the focus has been on rates. I'm taking a slightly broader view about the broader benefit to our community in terms of what Beerlight brings to Mansfield. This coronavirus has highlighted a number of things, but the impact on the older residents across Australia has been significant and somewhat tragic, especially to those much older. But here in Mansfield, we're really fortunate. Not only do the residents of Bearlight pay their rates, but they bring significant economic value to our community. And beyond that is the social benefit they bring to a large sector of the community. I think we're really fortunate that we've got a number of people who reside at Bearlight Village who provide a lot of social connection. They provide a lot of support for a range of organisations across town, both private organisations and also charitable organisations. I think we're really penny pinching to some extent, and we're saying to these people who bring significant benefit to our community that we can't sweep their streets. I mean, really, what has the world come to? You know, these are people who've paid rates, not just in our shire, but across, dare I say it, numerous shires and LGAs across perhaps Victoria and Australia, and probably even beyond that, contributed thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And here we are saying, oh, we can't sweep the streets. I understand where we're coming from.
Can I interrupt? Sorry.
Really, this is just penny pinching in my view.
Sorry, Councillor Volkering. What was your motion, Councillor Westendorp?
The motion was that council offer to include a monthly street sweeping or street cleaning for the for the private roads in Bearlight Village as part of council's street sweeping program at full cost recovery.
So you're really speaking in favour of that, Councillor Volkering, is that right? Or?
I'm speaking against it. I'd like to propose that we leave off that last phrase, at full cost recovery.
Okay.
So if I could interrupt, I'm sorry, through the chair, just the person moving the motion hasn't spoken to the motion yet in terms of process, and it might be worthwhile hearing that so you can understand the motion. Thanks,
Ms CEO. Mr. Harry Westendorp, Councillor Westendorp, would you like to speak to the motion?
I guess I'm coming at it from a principial point of view. These are private streets. We have a number of them in the Shire. If we sweep Bearlight streets, the private streets in Bearlight, then anyone that's living on a private road has the precedent that they want their road swept as well. It's just a principial thing for me.
Yes, Councillor Sladen.
Thank you, Councillor Olver. I certainly hear both Councillors Volkering and Westendorp. Now, I know that we've got a motion before us, but I would just like to flag an alternate motion, and that is that...
sorry, through the chair, yeah. Councillor Sladen, you can flag an alternative motion, but not say it at this point in time.
No, I wasn't going to say it, Madam CEO. I wasn't at this point in time, but I just want to say that I believe that some cost recovery is necessary.
Okay, thanks for that. I think we'll put that motion then. Could you read that motion to us, please? Who's recording?
Do you want, sorry?
Who's recording the proceedings?
Our Governance and Risk Coordinator, Mrs. Kane.
Could you read the motion that's going to be put, please, Ms. Kane? That Councillor Westendorp's motion.
Sure. That council offer to include a monthly street cleaning for the private roads in Bearlight Village as part of council's street sweeping program at full cost recovery.
Could we have a vote? All those in favour, please. Those against? So as the chair, I have a casting vote. So in favour.
So the motion's carried.
Motion's carried.
Thank you.
We invite Mayor Attlee back, please. Welcome back.
Thank you, Councillor Oldham. Thank you, officers, and thank you, councillors. We move on to item 13.5.1, naming of a feature sporting precinct. Our finance manager, Mrs. Kinnersley, is leading us with this. Councillors, do I have a motion, please? No motion. Do we have an amendment to the motion?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, just in terms of process, there's no motion on the table at this stage. You're just calling for a motion.
Thank you. Calling for a motion. Councillor Sladden.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The alternate motion that I wish to put is that council resolve to reject.
Councillor, it is not an alternative motion. It is a motion.
Oh, okay. Thank you for pointing that out. The motion that I'd like to put forward is that council acknowledge the community input to the naming process, however, reject the suggested name and go back to the community with a list of alternate names for consideration.
Do I have someone second that motion? Councillor Volkring. Anyone against the motion? Do I have a vote on that, please? Those in favour? Before I follow through with that, could I just check with the finance manager if the process is appropriate?
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, you've already called the vote.
Sorry.
You've got a decision already.
All in favour? Thank you.
Sorry, can I just clarify the wording again? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that wording.
Okay.
Councillor Sladden.
Councillor Sladden, could you please read your motion?
That council resolve to acknowledge the community contribution to the naming process, but reject the suggested name and go back to the community with a list of alternate names for consideration.
Thank you.
Are you right with that, Mrs. Kane? Thank you. We move on to 13.5.2 Mansfield Shire Council Instruments of Delegation and Authorisation. There is a recommendation on page 48. Do I have a motion? I won't expect you to read that one.
Yeah.
Councillor Sladden, do I have a seconder? Councillor Volkring, all in favour? Or those in favour, I should say. It's carried. Thank you. Move on to 13.6.1 Kidston Parade, Malcolm Street Footpath Project. Our general manager is there. Sorry, I couldn't see you. So we'll have a look at the recommendation. Do I have a motion? Councillor Volkring, do you mind reading the motion, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The motion is that council submit an application to the Traffic Accident Local Government Area Grants Program for $100,000 toward the Kidston Parade and Malcolm Street Footpath project.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Sladden, all of those in favour? That is passed. We move to item number 14, which is assemblies of councillors. Madam CEO, would you like to speak to that, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll take the report as read and happy to answer any questions. It's just a standard report indicating the assemblies of council on a monthly basis.
Thank you. If I have a motion, could I have a motion on that? Councillor Olver, do you mind reading the motion, please? You're on mute, councillor. Thank you.
The motion is that council receive and note the Assembly of Councillors report period of the 21st of July to the 4th of August 2020.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that motion, please? Councillor Wessendorf. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Move on to item number 15, the council resolutions register. We have a recommendation there. Do I have a motion? Councillor Sladden, please read the motion.
That council receive and note the council resolutions register as at 12th of August 2020.
Thank you very much. Could I have a seconder for the motion, please? Councillor Volkering. Those in favour? Carried. Item number 16, advisory and special committee reports. Madam CEO.
No reports, Madam Mayor.
No, item 17, the authorisation of sealings of documents. Madam CEO.
There are no documents to table to council for sealing tonight, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. And I move to the end of the meeting, which is the close of meeting. Thank you everyone for your attendance, particularly Radio Mansfield for your continued support, recording and helping us with our meetings, and our council staff who make sure that everything happens technically. Thank you very much.